Zambia Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. It is Saturday, October the 7th. And welcome to ZBTR TV Live. We are broadcasting to you from the great city of Dallas in Texas. My name is Nathan Ikama, and I'm your host. Please tag a friend and let them know that the show is on. You can find us on Facebook, Zambia Blog Talk Radio, and we're also on YouTube, ZBTR TV. Please subscribe. And don't forget to click on the little red bell so that when we go live, it will notify you that the show is live. Okay, today we have an amazing discussion. I have this lady has got a special place in not just a talk show, this talk show, because she featured on this when we were in our early days, I think a year or 2 years when ZBTR started. And she's been a great supporter, a great cheerleader. This is a phenomenal lady. Let me introduce our guest here today as she joins us. Dr. Justina Mutale is African Woman of the Year, ambassador she's the philanthropist, international speaker, human rights activist, founder of Justina Mutale Foundation. She's also founder of Positive Runway Global Catwalk to Stop the Spread. Dr. Justina, if I keep reading your profile, we're going to be here for 15 minutes. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you today. And how have you been?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nathan. And of course, I'm very proud and happy to be here. You are one of those Zambian media that have always supported me from the beginning. So let's just say that we have grown together.
Oh,
I was there
thank
when
you.
you guys started, and you were there in my early footsteps. So we are moving together at the same time as we progress in the world, and the world gets bigger and bigger as we go out there and we realize, oh my God, the world is actually made of 7 continents, and they actually do exist, because I have traveled in all of those. And
all 7 of them.
Yes, and seen different perspectives. So with that, you have traveled with me, and I'm happy to travel with you. Thank you very much for inviting me to this program.
Oh, Dr. Mutale, it's an honor for us to have you back. And we were just saying as a team that, you know what, she has made so much progress, so many strides, and it's time for her to come back here. One thing I've noticed as we begin this conversation, Dr. Justina, is the past few years, you make these trips to New York, which coincides with what do you call it, with the meetings of the United General Assembly, and you attend these side events and side meetings. Can you tell us what I just noticed that every time the UN is on, Dr. Justina shows up in New York? Can you tell us about what goes on behind the scenes and what type of meetings that you've been attending?
Okay, there are actually 2 meetings that I always attend, and these 2 meetings are first of all, of course, it's the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. That one is close to my heart because it talks about women. We talk about where we are coming from, what we are doing today, and how we need to get to where we want to be as women. As you know, I'm a gender activist, fighting for gender equality, and that's the equality between the male and the female. I believe that my group, for example, we advocate for what the United Nations is calling as the 50-50 planet, where we
Okay.
can have a 50% of male perspective and of course 50% of female perspective on at every high level decision making table. So of course we know that we cannot move without the support of, for example, heads of state and heads of government. So the
Yes.
next meeting that I always attend, and let me just go back, I've always attended the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, because earlier in my life I used to work in the Commonwealth Secretariat, and I worked in a division called the Gender Division, which speaks for
Okay.
itself in the title. So every year we attended the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. And when I left the Commonwealth, I started my own organization, but I continued to attend the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women in my own state, under my own organization. But of
Okay.
course, we need the support, we need the political will, and of course, the support of heads of state. And that's the next meeting that I always endeavor to attend. It will be the United Nations General Assembly, which is the biggest moment in the diplomatic calendar that brings everyone that to this global stage.
Oh, yes.
All heads of state, people from business, politics, civil society, academia, youth, women, scientists, leaders, experts, influencers, the private sector, anybody who believes that they are anyone attains the United Nations General Assembly.
Interesting. As a global envoy for gender equality, Dr. Mutale, help us understand what gender equality entails and the strides that have been made in the last 10 to 20 years.
What gender equality entails, as I have said, for me, in my perspective, it does not mean that men and women in their households, for example, husbands and wife fighting for the same spot in the home. That is different. For me, gender equality means that the male and male perspective are reflected at every decision-making table, especially every high-level decision-making table, and of course, leadership roles in the public sphere. That is what we are working towards. So next year we will be celebrating the 25 years of what is called the Beijing Platform for Action. And this is where we reflect on how far we have gone so far since the 1995 Beijing United Nations Fourth World Conference on Women. And this is a conference at which women around the world believe that, yes, now we have achieved gender equality. And when you look back, it always makes me laugh, because this is a place at which some very conservative African women, when they came back from that summit, they believed they had achieved gender equality, and they never wore trousers, so they started wearing trousers. And of course, this brought some problems in homes, because then some of the women believe that gender equality means making your husband wash the dishes, making your husband change the nappies and things like that. And there was all this conflict. But anyway, so when we look back, we find that in 2016 was 20 years. Was it 20 years? 20? No. In 2020, I think, was 20 years since the
Beijing.
since the Beijing platform, and really reflected on what we have achieved. And we found that we still have a deficit of women's wealth at every high level decision making table, in leadership roles. When you look around now, the United Nations has about 193 countries. And of those countries, only 7% are led by women. For us, by advocating for gender equality, we would like to see that half of those countries are led by women as head of state or head of government, and supported by a man as the deputy prime minister or vice president. And then the 50%, of course, headed by a man, supported by a woman, as we do in Zambia, as a vice president or deputy prime minister. For me, that is what gender equality would look like. That is where at every high level decision making table, we have 50% perspective of female perspective and 50% of male perspective, because for a long time the world has been built on the perspectives of men, and that is what we find. the world has not had a balance, because women, of course, make up 51% of the world population. And we
Population.
need to bring our aspiration, our perspectives, our desires, our dreams, our ideas, our intellect to that high level decision making table that decides the agenda of the world, or decides the well being of humanity, so to speak.
I totally agree with that, especially when you say our ideas, your perspective, and because at times, I'll be very honest with you, at times I walk into the house and I just get stuck where to do and where to start from. And she just comes in and, that level of perception and idealism needs to be brought to that level. Let's specifically address the African situation, Dr. Mutale. How much progress can you say has taken place for the women in rural areas?
Actually, we need to go back. In Africa, women, for thousands and thousands of years,
Mm,
women in Africa used to be equal, or even in some cases superior to their men. For example, I am from Zambia. My mother is from a Namwanga tribe. And in that tribe, from time immemorial, that
yes.
tribe has been led by a woman. The Namwanga kingdom is led by a women chieftainess, Nawaitwik. So that shows that African women have had the potential to lead. Up to today, we have a woman as leader of the Namanga kingdom, which is
Mm.
chieftainess Nawaitwika. My father is also from the Bemba kingdom. So while it is patriarchal and we have men like Chitimukulu and all those other people, it didn't stop one very powerful, strong, assertive woman called Lenshina, who stood up and started this movement that shook the political foundations of Zambia, if you know the history of Zambia.
Yes,
So
yes.
for me, it shows that African women are capable to lead. And
Mm,
also, when you look, for example, a living example right now, glaring us in our faces, is the example of Rwanda. In Rwanda, before the genocide, Rwanda's women needed permission from the man, a man in their family, whether it was your
oh,
husband,
really?
cousins, yeah, whether it was it needed to be your husband, your uncle, your grandfather, or even your brother, even if they were younger than you, as long as they were men, you needed permission to be engaged in civil activity or community activities, in business and anything, or political activity. But
Wow.
after the genocide, see, the population of Rwanda tilted 60 to 40%. So 60% women, 40% women. And then we find that those Rwandan women rose to the occasion overnight. They found themselves thrust into these leadership position, because after the genocide, they woke up and found there was no brother in the, because most of the people killed in the genocide were men, and
Mm,
some of them had been imprisoned and others had run away. So there were more women left holding the fort than men in Rwanda. So these Rwandan women overnight rose to the occasion. They rose like the phoenix from the ashes to take hold of what
mm.
needed to be done in Rwanda. And you find that by 2014, in those elections, women in Rwanda took up 64% seats in parliament.
Wow.
And of course, they also took, from my last research, they took up 45% of economic activity, as in business owned by women. And you can see where Rwanda is now. It is the centerpiece of Africa.
Mm,
It is shown as an example what an advanced African country should be. But this shows that African women, whether they are in the rural areas or urban areas, have the capability to lead. All
mm.
they need is to be given an opportunity. It is so sad that in Rwanda, it needed the men to die in order for the women to prove themselves. But it just shows that if the women are given an opportunity, whether it's an
Mm.
African country or whatever country it is, they can rise to the occasion, and they do have that leadership capability.
How does this given opportunity, Dr. Mutale, look like? What should be done? Uh, Men, like you've said in the Rwanda situation, we don't need to die for you to rise up. How does that opportunities, availing opportunities to women look like?
Availing opportunities to women means jumping over the institutional discrimination. In the case of
Mm.
Rwanda, even in politics, there were quotas there. And when they opened up for women to have equal participation with their men, this is where
Yes.
we saw that the women came up tops. So, in some countries, in most countries in the world up to today, there's something that restricts women through institutional discrimination. So this institutional discrimination does not open the avenues for women to participate as much as they want to participate. So that is what we are talking about, equality of opportunity. When women are given equal opportunities, they can show you that they can rise to the occasion, as in the case of Rwanda.
Amazing, amazing. You run an amazing foundation, which is doing a lot, a lot, a lot. And Justina Mutale Foundation. Please tell us when you formed or founded this foundation, and what prompted its formation.
Yeah, I did say that I used to work in the Commonwealth Secretariat
Uh
before
huh.
I ventured out on my own. And of course, I mentioned that when I worked in the Commonwealth Secretariat, every year we attended the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. So when I stopped working in the Commonwealth, first of all, I started with Positive Runway at
Runway.
yeah, that's what I started with. But under Positive Runway, of course, we were accepted under the United Nations ECOSOC committee, or ECOSOC consultative status. So then I re-registered to attend the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, because Positive Runway was a woman-founded organization.
Okay.
So I went back after about 10 years, after having been in the Commonwealth Secretariat. I went back to the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women after 10 years. That was in 2015. And this is a crucial moment at which we were concluding the Millennium Development Goals. And then the following year, we were going to start, or was the inception of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So what surprised me there was that, oh, I've been out of this for 10 years. And when I went there, I found we're talking about the same things and we are still at the same level. And like I said, I found that there's still a deficit of women's wealth or women's
Mm-hmm.
participation at high level of decision making. And of course, the other thing that did it for me was that having worked in this gender equality sphere, there was a background that I knew and understood. And of course, like I said, growing up in a background of powerful, assertive women like Chief Nawai Twika and
Yes.
Lenshina, women like that. So then I found at that time in 2015, we did what was called again March for Historic, they called it Historic March for Gender Equality at Times Square.
Okay.
And I thought, what is going on here? I know that from time immemorial, a woman rules my kingdom.
Yes.
I know that in about, was it 1913 or 1911, the women of South Africa woke up and marched for this. I know also that 200 years ago, the women's suffrage movement got up to work for, gender equality and women's right to vote in the US and also in the UK. So why are we calling this historic march for gender equality? And of course, I'm a mother of what you might call a millennium baby. My daughter was born in the year 2000. That was the inception of the Millennium
Okay.
Development Goals. And she's a teenager now at 2015, and I'm marching. And I'm thinking, by the conclusion of the Sustainable Development Goals in the
Uh
year
huh.
2030, my daughter and her peers born at the inception of the Millennium
The millennium.
Development Goals in the year 2000, in 2030, they'll be 30 years old. So they will be the leaders, the decision makers, the political leaders, the managers, and everything. And I'm thinking, will my daughter and her female peers still be marching for this gender equality? And I decided, no, this shouldn't be the case. If they should find it necessary to do that, I do not want them to march on their feet. I'd want them to march with their head,
Heads.
a head filled of the correct knowledge, the correct tools, the correct networks, the correct ideas, and of course, the correct networks on how they can compete on equal footing with their male counterparts. And that's when I went back to London and started the Justina Mutale Foundation. And of course, our scholarship program was launched at the Zambian Mission, which is, we call them the Zambian High Commission, Zambian Chancery in the UK. And we had the representation of the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. We also had the representation of somebody very high level from the African Union. So that is what we do with the justice. And I also thought, well, if I'm going to try and get these young women to compete on equal footing with their male counterparts, they need to have the right education.
That's right.
And that is where we went on to bring in the scholarship program, so they can be educated at the same level as their male counterparts. And it also occurred to me that, working in the international development sphere, I've been seeing everybody talking about education in Africa, bringing education forward and all of that. But it's everybody who had been advocating, most international organizations advocate for the first 12 years, which is from year 1 to maybe grade 12, for example, in Zambia.
Okay.
What would a grade 12 do now in this globalized competitive world with a
Nothing.
grade 12 education?
Yeah.
So my organization decided that we would give opportunities for our young people from Zambia and other African countries to access tertiary education or perhaps university education, so that they can compete on equal footing with their global counterparts. So that's where the scholarship program came in. And now we started, of course, with the undergraduate program, but we also do the master's program, and hopefully soon we'll do the PhD.
How does the scholarship program work? Like you've said, it's not just, when I looked at your website, social media platforms, I noticed that you've got somebody from Botswana there. How does it work? Who benefits? How can somebody benefit or apply?
Okay, so the Justina Mutale Foundation Scholarship Program is an Africa-wide program, is to bring African young people at equal footing with their global counterparts. As you know, Africa at the moment, as we speak, has the highest population of young people. In some countries, 80% of young people under the age of 80% of the population in those countries are young people under the age of 24. And for me, this is the group that will lead the world into its next millennium, because other parts of the world, the Western world, are dying off because they've got higher populations of older people than we have the high populations of young, agile people in Africa. So this is an Africa-wide, our scholarship program is an Africa-wide initiative. But of course, I am from Zambia, and the bulk of it, we kind of concentrate on Zambia. So it is to give opportunities to those young people from Zambia who have the academic capability or who exhibit academic excellence, but they come from poor families or background that cannot afford to send them to university.
Yes.
So this is where we come in. If they can exhibit that academic excellence, if they have those 6 points, as you call, we've had students who've had 6 points, and for 7 years they've just been sitting there and couldn't proceed to university because there was no space for them at the University of Zambia. And of course, they couldn't go to other private universities in Zambia because their family can't afford it. So we have brought these on, and we've had, for example, I have a very good example. This young lady, she had been at home for about 7 years in Zambia. She came onto our program. We partnered with a US scholarship provider, and we recommended her there. And last year she graduated. She's done her first degree, and she's even gone on to work for one of these major organizations like Microsoft or Apple.
Wow, amazing.
So that is what we do. So the students have to just, is the most important thing is that they have the academic excellence or academic capability, and they can exhibit that they can do this. And also, of course, it means tested. We know that this child is coming from a family that cannot afford to send them to university. That's the next criteria, and we bring them on board. But last year we got a partnership with another group on which what we are offering are not necessarily scholarships, but it's where we give them access to what is called student loans, and that
Okay.
happens in the United Kingdom. So all young people in the United Kingdom have the are given the opportunity to go as high as they can in education.
Education,
So
yes.
those whose parents cannot afford to pay for private education, the state pays for them. And of course, when you are going to tertiary education or university education, you've got what is called student finance, and these are student loans. So you are given this loan so you can go as high as you want to be, PhD or postdoctoral research, but the government funds you. So this is the opportunity that we are given to African students and also students from Zambia, because what deters most of them to advance in education is the
Mhm.
lack of finance. And
That's
we
true.
found these partners who can help us find the finance in the form of student finance or what you might call student loans, and they can proceed to do their masters in the USA and in other parts of the world.
Other parts
For
of the
me,
world.
I believe this is important because once our young people go out there, they come back with, it's not just an education as in academics where you know how to write your essay or do and this, but also you learn about the people because you are living among these people. You understand them. And when next you sit at that table to negotiate what is good for your country, you
Mhm.
know, when, for example, when a British person says, wow, that's interesting, you have to understand what that means. If a Chinese person raises their eyebrow, you have to understand what that means. So they go out there, learn the people and their cultures, and understand where they're coming from so that you know how to negotiate with them at that high level table to negotiate the fate of your country.
Yeah, that's very important. It's not just like you are saying academic,
No,
acquiring academic knowledge or information, but also understanding it. It puts you in a placing where you can participate, compete at a global level. One
exactly.
thing I observed, Dr. Mutane, is that it's your, what do you call it? Why is it called SOS, Justina Mutale Presidential STEM Fellows? Why that name?
Okay, first of all, the initiators of the program are called SOS Global Investments. And
Okay.
why it's called Presidential STEM Fellows? Because this is a program that is done in the names of presidents, uh,
Mm.
African presidents, African billionaires, and African foundations.
Okay.
Yes. So in those countries in which their presidents have come forth and accepted this offer, then that program is in the president's name. For example, in Malawi, they started it as the Joyce Banda Foundation STEM and Sports Fellows program. And then President Chakwera, just a few weeks ago, we launched together with him this program. So now in Malawi, it will be called the President's Lazarus Chakwera STEM Fellows program. So, for
Mhm.
example, if this program were to be accepted by the Zambian government, and perhaps if somebody were to take it to our Zambian president, of which we tried when we started this, then we would call it the HH Presidential STEM Fellows Program.
That
Yes,
makes
but
sense.
because then we hadn't managed to go that far, although we tried in so many different ways to reach the president and his office and other people, we couldn't. So we started it under my foundation. Like I said, it's under the president, of course, under the under the president, under any billionaire. For example, Dangote, it could be good Dangote STEM Fellows Program,
Okay.
and also, of course, the president's name if the president were to come on board and say, okay, I want to do this. And I need to mention this. During the you asked me about what meetings took place during the UNGA
UN. Yes.
78, and one of the programs that we had there under this presidential STEM fellows is something we called US Africa Presidential Forum on STEM and AI, and it was to address our scholarship program for being giving for giving access to student finance or student loans to students from Africa to do their masters in STEM related programs. And of course, President Chakwera of Malawi was our guest of honor. And because we had also invited other presidents, for example, the president of Sierra Leone and others, but those that attended was the president, because it was in New Jersey. So the president of Sierra Leone and of course the president of Malawi received two checks. One was for $25 million, which is for the preparatory study, as each student has to pay $2,500 to do that program, but they do it under that scholarship. So it's $25 million scholarship for the preparatory study before they can go on to do their master's program. And then they also got a check for $100 million. So this $100 million is student finance or student loan for 1,000 places or 1,000 students, for example, from Zambia that can access this finance to undertake their master's study in the US or any other countries that is participating in this program. That's the way we are at now. So the Justina Mutale Foundation currently has of course, the $100 million, and we are working in 10 countries in Africa, of which we have 1,000 places. But Zambia can have its own $100 million and 1,000 places of Zambian students who can access this finance to do their master's study in a STEM or sports-related program.
Amazing, amazing. Oh my goodness. Let's take a break here. As we come back, we're talking to Dr. Justina Mutale. She's the founder of Justina Mutale Foundation. We shall be coming back in a few seconds.
Zaga Duro Kublan Oluti Tada Don't you love me Neka.
Welcome everybody. If you are joining us today, our guest is Dr. Justina Mutale. She's a global gender equality advocate and founder of Dr. Justina Mutale Foundation. My next question I wanted you to address is, I would have loved, and everybody else, to hear that Zambia is spearheading this from State House level. It's okay, Malawi is also presidential level, it's engaged. They are our brothers and sisters. I believe the people in the government are hearing this, and it's important that we push for this thing, because we all know that, like you have said, Dr. Mutale, the positions, the places or spaces at UNZA and all those public universities are limited. And most of the kids, I can't believe somebody would stay home for 6-7 years after finishing high school without doing anything. No. That's not acceptable. Somebody is watching this show. We have Zambian organizations globally doing a lot of things. Like, I'll give an example. Global Corp, it's a group of Zambians diaspora doing amazing things. If they want to engage Justina Mutale Foundation Scholarship Program and get engaged to be sponsors, what should they do?
Okay, so I just want to go back and make everybody understand, as I mentioned to you before, Africa at the moment has the highest number of youth, has the highest population of young people under the age of 24. So we need to do something about that. We need to educate those African youth to the level, because they will be the ones taking humanity to the next level. I am also a humanitarian, so they will be taking humanity to the next level. And of course, there's a simple saying that says children are the future.
Yes.
So the future belongs to them, and we have to make every opportunity that we can educate our young people in Africa at the same level as their global counterparts. I already mentioned to you how in the UK, when a child is born, they are assured of an education from kindergarten or what you call nursery school or K care in the US. I'm trying to remember what it is called, but there's a K there. But anyway, up to as far as that child wants to go, it's just up to the child to decide, I don't want to pursue a master's, I don't want to go to university or college, and I don't want to do a PhD or postdoctoral research. But the funding is always there. And this is funded through what is called in the UK, for example, every child has got access to what is called student finance. And in American terms, this is called student loan. So
Yes.
even in the USA, every child has got access to student loan. We don't have this in Zambia. We don't have it at the moment. And also we are in a globalized world. Remember, we have to have a global mindset, and we have to understand how the global community works and understands things. So this program, our STEM Fellows program, is to, one, give access to our young people in Zambia and other African countries to student finance, or give them a student loan, the finance that they need in order to advance in their education, from tertiary, from first degree to masters, and perhaps even to PhD. So the money is there and it is waiting for them. What we don't have, for example, in Zambia is, how do we channel it? How do we find those 1,000 Zambian students that can access this $100 million that is waiting for them? Like I said, the Justina Mutale Foundation has the $100 million, but this is divided in 10 African countries. But there is the facility for Zambia as a country on its own to have its own $100 million, and to make available to those 1,000 students, because each student will have access to 100,000 US dollars for their 2-year master's degree study. And of course, when they get their visa, what they get is a work study visa. And that is a 5-year visa, in which the first 2 years they have to concentrate on their masters. And once they graduate, they get a job, a very high paying professional job in STEM or sport or management or entrepreneur or whatever it is they have graduated in, that will pay them the minimum, according to our research, will be between $60,000 to $90,000 per year, but it goes up to about $200,000 per year. Can you imagine what a child, or a Zambian child, a child from Zambia earning $200,000 per year, living in the USA, and of course they will be at high senior level in their organization because they graduated, what they can do for their families or even their friends with that amount of money. And just I think 2 months ago, Netflix had advertised this job to under STEM, in which they were offering, it was a new job, and their initial salary was 900,000 US dollars. So a Zambian child who gets on this STEM Fellows, Justina Mutale Foundation STEM Fellows program, or if we were to take it to the president, it would be called the HH STEM Fellows program, would qualify for that job at Netflix, and they would earn as a first salary 900,000 US dollars per year. What that can do for Zambia. And on top of this, our program is not just about students earning that money. We are also trying to make the students invest back in Zambia. So we have a housing program attached to that. That's how this program should be. So while they are earning in the diaspora in those 5 years or 3 years when they get to work after they have graduated, we want them to invest in a property in Zambia, which will earn them money, so they have financial stability by the time they return to Zambia, should they decide to do so. Also, what we have experienced with our undergraduate students, most of them, when they graduate, they are always taken away. They are always scouted by very high level international organizations like Microsoft, Apple, all of these technology.
and all
company.
this.
Yeah, so they don't end up going to Zambia directly. They end up working in the US and helping others. One of our graduates, they managed to bring their parents. These are parents who could not afford to send them to university. But by the time they are graduating, because you graduate and you finish your course, and then your graduation ceremony is about 6 months later. They have already started working. In those 6 months, they raise enough money to bring their parents or families to attend their graduation ceremonies. But then in the years to come, how much can they do to Zambia? So these students would be bringing the money back to Zambia to contribute to the economic development of the country. We need to look further than the surface, further than that, what this is. This one pushback we have received is that, oh, it is not a scholarship, the master's program. Of course, the undergraduate program is a full scholarship in some countries. In other countries, we have 100% tuition fee, and then we partner with other corporate sponsors or ourselves to buy the air ticket or to pay for the living expenses. But in the US, we have a partner who does what is called a full ride scholarship. They pay for everything, including the airfare. So when we started the master's program, which is a student finance or student loan, we had a pushback to say, oh, it's a loan. We don't want to get involved in a loan. And we had to keep reminding to the students, look, Barack Obama and Michelle Obama had a loan which they only finished paying, was it 2 years before they got into the White House, or even 2 years after they already got into the White House. So if Barack Obama had never taken that student loan, he would have never done that law. He would have never become president. So we are telling the African students or Zambian students to understand that of course it is a loan, but it is a loan that would take you further than you've ever imagined you could ever go. We are trying to make them understand that. So for me, of course, it hurts me that I can stand there advocating for the president of Malawi and advocating for the president of Sierra Leone or any other countries, and I can't get leeway to my own president in my own country, and I can't bring forth my own children from my own Zambian country, and I'm embracing these children from Malawi, these children from Sierra Leone, and these children from other countries. That hurts me a lot as a humanitarian, as a person who believes in the philosophy of Ubuntu, as a Zambia, as a mother. Of course, I see that every child that comes onto my program is my child, and if you go back to them, I personally hold their hands to make sure that they go through all of these spaces. For example, we had a student who in 5 years ago, we recommended for undergraduate program. And then he had a few problems for 5 years. In between, we had the COVID and all of that. He's only, ever since we put him on the program for undergraduate, for 5 years, he couldn't access that. He only came to the US this year. And this is that I have kind of taken on my own. And even in his heart, he also has embraced me as a mother, because for all the 5 years, we had to walk with him and hold his hand until this actually happened. We never gave up.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Zenith is watching from Baltimore, and I will be in Philadelphia on October 20th. And Lorna watching from the UK. Zenith says, wow, this is amazing. I'm happy to hear about sports program as well. And good morning, Dr. Mutale. This is from Brenda in Dallas, Texas. What a brilliant initiative. Thank you so much for pushing education. My prayer is that someone in government is listening, or someone will share this with them so we can take this advantage of such programs, okay? Kudos to you, Mama. Fantastic initiative. And my sister Rachel says, you're a trailblazer. Keep up the brilliant work. Just one point, how can we improve on the dissemination of this valuable information to the marginalized in particular?
So this information, for example, when we embarked in 2016, when we introduced the the Justina Mutale Scholarship Program. It was written about in most of the Zambian blogs and and also mainstream Zambian newspapers. And also, even when we started the the Justina Mutale STEM and Sports Fellows Program, where initially in the first year we were given $10 million. That was for 100 students. And when this was increased tenfold to $100 million for 10 countries, this was also written about in the social media platforms, in the blogs, Zambian blogs, and also in the mainstream newspapers. It's just that I think people have their attention elsewhere. And humans, we are drawn to negative stuff. One of our students who attended the program at which we handed over the check for 25 million for preparatory study and $100 million to President Chakwera, he wrote to say that, and this is on his Facebook page, that young people in Zambia, let's not concentrate on gossip, on twerking, on dancing, because you find that the people who are insulting other people have the highest number of followers.
Oh, yes.
When you are bringing
you can say that again.
Yeah, when you are bringing something to improve their lifestyles and their families and everything, like, for example, I'm saying we are giving them this $100 million. So the student gets $100,000 to study masters. And as soon as they arrive in the US, they are given for the first year that $50,000 in their hands. Of course, some of it they have to pay for their tuition, and the money for their living expenses, for their school books and their school equipment and everything is given to them in their hands. So, for example, if the program is 21,000 for the first year, then the school will take out their 21,000 US dollars in the first year as tuition fees. Then the students is left with how much? Is it $29,000 for their living expenses and other stuff? And this is money that a Zambian student, if they can budget themselves properly, you could even in the initial year, as soon as you get that money back, you have calculated how much you need to pay for your accommodation, how much you need to pay for your books and things like that. And this is over a year. There is a bit of money left there, whether it's $2,000 or $5,000 or even up to $10,000 that you can right away send back to Zambia. What is $10,000? That is 20, is it 21? Or 2,100,000. I can't make the calculation. Sorry. Yeah, that you can send back to Zambia to help your family or to start building, like I said, or to just do something for yourself back in Zambia while you're studying. Because while you're also studying as a student, you can work. You've got 20 hours to work as a student. And as a student, the minimum you can earn perhaps will be, let me just take it to the bare minimum, would be $300, which means per month you will earn another $1,000 of your own money, while you already have this other money and living allowance that was given to you through the student finance.
Okay.
And also, as soon as you graduate, you've got you go straight away. These big organizations like Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, and everybody are coming for you, and you straight away go to earn minimum 60 to 90 million, or maybe average would be about 150 to 200,000 dollars. So you'd be able to start paying back this loan. You can even pay back this loan whether it's in the first year or second year by the third year of your 5-year work study program. It just depends on how you organize yourself and how financially disciplined you would be. But with that, during the preparatory study, we educate the students. We give them the financial literacy, the communication skills, how to live life in a foreign country, and how to study in all these countries and things like that. We try to equip them with those skills.
Okay. Final comment, Derek says, very valuable information. I knew about the MasterCard scholarship program, but I didn't understand how it works. For everybody else, let me show you this. Let me show you this. We need to, if those of you who would like to sort of find out more information, just do a search for that organization, Justina Mutale Foundation, in your Google search, on social media. you find the information, all of it is there, and you'll be able to get all the information that you need. Okay, one more thing before we go. Let's talk about this.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Okay, so as a global envoy for gender equality, my organization, the Justina Mutale Foundation, once in a while holds a conference to do with our fight for gender equality. And every year for about 5 years now, we've done a conference called the World Summit on Women and Girls. Because of the COVID, we started this in 2020 during the COVID. So this has the first few years been held online as an online program. But for the first time now, we are going to hold it or in person in Philadelphia. And we have the blessings of the who's who in Philadelphia, because the event will be held at the Philadelphia City Hall. We have a number of senators attending. We have a number of congressmen and women attending. We have, we hope that we can, we are looking at having the governor and of course the mayor officiate at the event. But also our keynote speakers include some of the most powerful women around the world, female, first female presidents of their countries, like the first female president of Kosovo, the first female president of Malta, the first female president of Mauritius, and the first, the former female vice president of the Gambia, the current vice president, who's a very close friend of myself from Liberia, the former the current vice president of Liberia, Julian Howard Taylor. So we have all these high level people. And of course, our theme is AI and female leadership in the digital age. Like I said, we advocate for women to move at par with their male counterparts. So we are trying to see how can women, and the summit, of course, will be celebrating what is called the United Nations International Day of the Girl. So last March, the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, our focus was on innovation, technology, and education, achieving gender equality through innovation, technology, and education. And that is what we are carrying forth into this summit. We have some exciting stuff. We've got the first ever robot woman coming.
Wow.
Yeah, we have our own humanoid speaker there. We have all kinds of people coming from the technology field coming. And like I said, the politicians from Philadelphia and the state of Pennsylvania are all on board. They will also all be attending there. And of course, I'd like some of our own Zambians based in Philadelphia or New York or any neighboring states that are able to easily come over to Philadelphia to be there. And this is not just to come because Justina Mutale is holding this summit. No, it's for you to make those networks with all these politicians in the state of Pennsylvania or Philadelphia. And of course, the people in the women's movement and the people in the AI and digital age or technology movement. And this is where it is. So I do have one of my young Zambian ladies that I have invited because like I told you, it hurts me that we cannot get Zambia on government level to be involved in the $100 million student finance. But wherever I go, I bring forth a Zambian that I know so I can give them this exposure. So we do have the president of the Zambian Philadelphia organization. I don't know if that is what it's called. She's coming as a speaker. Yeah. And I think this is
Stella is I call her a proactive leader.
This will be a great platform for her, and because she proved herself when we invited her to the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, and she spoke at our side event. She's a brilliant speaker. She knows what she's doing. And so I take these kinds of people with me wherever I go. If next time we hold this event in London or Dubai, I am taking Stella with me. So anybody that is willing to come along with me and they can prove themselves, any Zambian youth or other person around my age or even older than me, as long as they're able to come with me, I'll take them on board with me to my global networks.
Excellent, excellent. Final question, Dr. Mutale. fostering women's leadership. What should we do as a community, as a global community, at every level? Speak to me who lives in a household of 4 people. I'm the only man, there are 3 women. Fostering women's leader, because at times we don't want to talk about these things in abstract. Let's be practical. Everybody watching, I want them to be challenged how they need to foster these women. All of us have got young sisters, cousins, nieces, aunts, and how does this fostering women's leadership look like?
Okay, let me just start first of all with the organizations of Zambians abroad. I think that is the group that runs brings together Zambians in the USA.
Yes.
I have not been following that until a man was at the helm of that. And I think up to now, there's a man at the helm of that, and that's been quite a number of years. And if a girl like Stella can prove herself to learn the Philadelphia branch of that, perhaps then she should be the president of the Organization of Zambians Abroad, because it's been a long time since a man has been at the top of that. And this is my young brother, Siddiq. I don't know whether he's still there or maybe I haven't been following her. And he's done a brilliant job. But like in the case of Rwanda, you need to give women that opportunity for them to show themselves. In the household, let me just tell you, I did say that women are natural born leaders. We are the ones that life grows within us. We bring life into this world. We nurture them. And we are the ones that decide, for example, even in the poorest household, the woman will know how to work with the budget, the little budget that she has. What will we eat today? How much should I spend on the food? How much would be spent on the children going to school? How much should you spend on the husband looking good when he goes to work? And all of these things. And those are in the poorest households. And so we know that women are natural born leaders. They already have these skills within them that are required in the public sphere. So we need to nurture those and bring them out to the public sphere. For me, that is what is missing at the moment in the world. That is why the world has got no balance. So if a woman in a rural area can work out this budget of maybe even if she just gets that, I read about the cash transfer, which is only $100 per month, and she works through that $100 to sustain her family. Can you imagine if she had the budget that was read out last week in Zambian parliament, what she could do with that? How she could put it all together that it works according to the needs of the Zambian people. So we have all of this. So in your household, of course, you are the head of the family as a father. We are not taking that away from you. We are very traditional people. But if we are talking on the public sphere, you need one to allow your female children to understand that they do have what it takes to be a leader. In fact, this is what led me to write my book. Book. Sorry, I didn't bring it to this platform. My book is titled.
We'll arrange another interview just for the book.
Yes, so it's titled The Art of Iconic Leadership, Power Secrets of Female World Leaders. So this book I wrote as a gift to the next generation woman, to young people like your daughters, as their gift. Because as a gender activist, I got tired of hearing that, like I mentioned to you, we have 193 countries in the United Nations, only 7% have a head of state and things like that. People would justify that, oh, it's because young people, young women and girls have no role models to inspire them into leadership. My book shows those role models. Those role models, including Nawaituka and Lenshina, to be more closer to home. But also it broadly goes around the world of all those women that have ever stood out for me, starting from Cleopatra to Catherine the Great, and coming through Michelle Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Kamala Harris, Benazir Bhutto from Pakistan. Pakistan is a Muslim country, remember, but they had a female president. before even the United States, which is more democratic than Pakistan. So I have all those women in there to show young people like your daughters that it is capable for them to lead as a female child. It is capable for them to become a leader as a female, because these women in my book have done it, and this is how they did it, and this is what makes them do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Dr. Justina Mutale. She's the founder of Justina Mutale Foundation and an advocate for gender rights globally. Dr. Justina, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nathan. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, and I hope that our interaction or discussions can inspire other young Zambians. Like I said, we now live in a globalized, competitive world, and I wouldn't want to leave Zambia behind. I want them to come on board this global caravan and achieve as much as other young people can do, because I know that every child has potential. And I also want to give every child that opportunity that can make them excel to their highest potential. And that is why we should give every child in Zambia quality education. And quality education does not mean it's the burden of the government of Zambia. No government in the world can do everything for their people.
That's true.
It brings out other citizens who have the opportunity to help others, to help their government to achieve what they need to achieve. So where our government we have a huge population of young people in Zambia, there is no way, from what I know, that our government can absorb all those young people. But we do have initiative that we can make available to young people in Zambia to take away the burden from our government. That we can help with our young people. I know this because I've lived in the diaspora. I know how things work in the UK. I know how things work in the US. Of course, I've also studied international relations and politics, and I know how the world works. So it is up to us as citizens of our country to help our governments where our governments cannot do what needs to be done, because they are restricted as a government.
That's true. That's very true.
This is where ourselves, as the civil society, as the private sector, as private individuals of Zambia, as those that are capable to help, should be able to help, whether we are helping our own young brother or sister in our own families, our own nieces, and in our own families, we help pay for them. You can't just be standing there to ask the government to give you free education and free food and free all this. And you already, like myself, benefited from free education from Kaunda's days. What have I done from what I've earned as a result of that free education? It's time for us to give back.
That's right. That's right.
People. We cannot be sitting there waiting for the government to do everything when we are in a position to help our government.
That's true. Thank you, Dr. Justina Mutale. We shall be catching up with, I need to arrange for an interview just to talk about the book.
Okay, that would be great.
All right, have a good one. Have a good one. All right, everybody, that was our interview for this week. Remember, October is Zambia's independence. We focus on attend the independence celebration being organized in your community, okay? Talking to those of us who live abroad. Attend, whether you're in California, Seattle, Minnesota, Conseg, just attend. And then Oza is doing the big thing in Chicago. Everybody's welcome. Next week, I'll be talking to the Director General of NAPSA. He's going to be telling us about what is going on there. Thank you. Share the link.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.